Parsha has a lot in it. It's jam-packed with mitzvot, with commandments. But we're going to take a look and explore one of the main ideas that's in this Parsha, and that's the laws of Kashrut. Now, Rabbi, the other day, this is a good example. There's a lot of misconceptions about what kosher is, about what makes something kosher. I had a jar of kosher pickles in my cart, and I was coming up, and a woman asked me, she said, "Oh, I was just wondering about what exactly makes a pickle kosher. Have these pickles been blessed by a rabbi? Is food being blessed by a rabbi, does that make it kosher?"
Well, this is a very common myth, a very common mistake among people. They're thinking kosher, meaning some rabbis giving a blessing and it makes it kosher, or it's some type of a huge business for people. Kashrut, it's much deeper. It's several places in the Torah. One of them it's in this week Torah portion. So what is a kashrut all about? First and foremost, it's a mitzvah. It's a biblical commandment. Almighty created us. He knows what is good for us. So it's a commandment. But our sages try to go to explanation. So they try to tell us that is a physical, biological, medical reasons.
That's one of the common misconceptions that I was talking about. This idea that the laws of Kashrut aren't applicable today because they were only for health reasons. That the reason why we don't eat pork and shellfish back then was because we didn't have refrigerators.
One is the health reasons. Health reasons meaning Creator created us. He knows what is good for us. And therefore He gives us a food that it's proper for our body. There are others. It was a great rabbi by the name of Rabbi Banel. He lived at the 12th century in Spain. He holds strongly that it's nothing to do with health. It's a spiritual, something connect to our soul. There is an excellent book written by a good friend of mine. It's called the Kosher for the Clueless but Curious. Rabbi Shimon Appisdorf.
I did read this, Rabbi, and in fact he has a great bullet definition of what kashrut is, of what kosher is. A comprehensive dietary discipline designed to promote Jewish spirituality.
I dealt with this question that comes many times. So here there are many reasons why people eat and drink. The biological, medical reason is to maintain growth and sustain the body. There are also social, psychological, and emotional reasons. All involve a person's relationship to society as well as individual and emotional components. The last tangible reason is strictly spiritual. The kosher dietary law spell out in the Torah, which we take it as a prescribed by God, meaning they were giving to enable a person to achieve and remain in the highest spiritual dimension. It's help us to connect and strengthen the link between a person's body and a person's soul. As everything in the world has created by God, and God is aware of all elements, formulas, ingredients, etc. So it's like, imagine if a person's, let's say, buy vitamins and they ignore the recommended dosage and swallowed 20 vitamins a day instead of a specified 2. So he may or may not feel the adverse effects right away, but one day it will catch up with him. Mm-hmm. So even the brightest and most qualified nutritional specialist cannot second guess the true meaning behind God's dietary laws. We take it as understand that it's something that the God asks us. As I said, there are other way of thinking. Take, for example, the extreme. Maimonides, in one of his books, it's called Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed, he explains that the biblical prohibition against mixing milk and meat, it was a time of idol worshiper, that mixing milk and meat, but he himself holds that it's not just a health reasons. Health reason, it's easy to sell for people who are not familiar, but those who go a little more in advance of understanding, it's a little deeper, and it's a spiritual reason.
So it's this connection, right? This idea that our body and our soul are intrinsically linked, and that through keeping the laws of kosher, through keeping kosher, we strengthen this connection between our soul, and our body. Is
correct? But Let's a little bit elaborate on that. When God created the world, was the first man, and then the story of Noah and the great flood. So at that time there is no need for animals or any type of milk and meat and problem. It was a world filled of vegetation and beauty. After the great flood and his lack of food, it was a special restrictions over eating certain animals in a certain time, meaning don't cut the species, don't create any cruelty to animals. And that's part which we call 7 Noahide laws that not apply only to Jews but to non-Jews alike. Prohibition, as we said, to cut part of the animal's body, etc. Now, there is another part that's much deeper, the whole idea of price. People constantly ask why kosher products sometimes cost more. For sure there are different levels of kashrut, but if you're sending a mashgichim, a people to supervise the process, and they are there all the time, checking part of the animals, checking there is no hole and is no any problem while the process of making it, and try to make it in a painless to animals, that's basically part of the process which we call high level of kashrut. And highest level of kashrut, because of the people involved with this, it's cost more.
Why is it that there's so few Jews today that actually observe kashrut when it's something that seems like it's such a big part of the overall package of being a Jewish person?
Well, I respectfully disagree with you. First and foremost, there are too many Jews and non-Jews that observing kashrut intentionally or unintentionally. It's not like in those days you're walking on a supermarket, there's nothing available. Nowadays, every supermarket carries some product that they have the symbols, the kosher symbols, number one. Number two, a large part of the kosher market today, it's by people who are not observant, who are not Jewish, can be Muslims, can be Christians, can be people who observe the halal law in the Muslim world, and more. So the kashrut is nowadays, it's not only for the certain sect in observant Jewish world. But furthermore, today the availability of kashrut is so bright, you just need to open your eyes and ask, and there are so many sites and so many 800 numbers that are available. So it is not true in nowadays in 2011 to say that there is no kosher product available, in a sense that people can do it, and there are more and more awareness, and as a result there are more and more people observing kashrut nowadays.
So just as you could say that Torah is the diet for our soul, kashrut is the diet for our body.
And for our spiritual growth.